Hey guys, we just got done rewatching Rambo Last Blood. This is not a review of that. This is just a retrospective over the whole thing. You want a review? I'll put a link somewhere, but after seeing this, first of all, now that we've seen all of them, this is our third favorite.
Indeed.
It goes 1, 4, 5, 2, then 3. 3 just was such a snore fest, but I have to say though, this felt like a fitting end.
Indeed. Even more so than the first time. Because now we've got all of the context for everything.
Exactly, and yeah, there's talks of it Stallone wanting to do a 6th one where it's with an Indian reservation. That just sounds like he's just doing it for political reasons, not. This felt earned. And it's the most personal it's gotten. I know some people scoffed at it. It was. Everything here was personal. The only other time it was this personal was, aside from getting taking him back in 3, was the first one where he just got pushed around. But even then, it wasn't this bad. And this has the most monstrous villain.
Like, 4 was pretty bad, but that guy was just a coward who happened to be in power.
Exactly, but
these guys were actively malicious and douchebags.
And just like 4, followed real life events. To the point where people from Mexico felt they didn't show enough. Think about that a second.
They said that this was toned down, and this was pretty damn bad.
It was, but overall, the whole movies, it was an incredible journey. 3 is the only one I think you could drop.
Yeah, that one you really don't need to watch.
Except, of course, him and, just blanked on the name now. The Colonel. Troutman. I can say Tatum. Troutman. You know, aside from that, you could drop it. But all you needed was 1. You needed 2, so you can get him from the States to Nam. Then you can go right into 4. You do not need 3 at all. And this told a journey of a man who was already broken, came back home, during the war, lost all of his friends, all the people he thought were the bestest friends he had, except for Troutman. And then he comes back, and he's harassed and pushed until he has to make it a war. And because of stuff that wasn't all his fault to begin with. As it went on, it was his fault. But to begin with, and he ended up going to jail for it. Then he ends up going in to help out, only to be almost screwed over again. And then he decides, I'm staying in Nam. And then, again, it's skipping 3, you go into 4, he's being consumed. He is empty. He has nothing. He's staying in Nam because he feels there's nothing back home, but what has it gotten him?
Not really much of anything. He's just empty.
Yeah, he's just empty. He just feels like there's nothing good in the world. Then he finally comes home, and in between 4 and 5, he actually feels whole. Seeing him smile.
That is an extreme rarity.
How often did he smile? Even with Cho, I don't think he smiled that much. Which, I gotta say, as much as we appreciate Cho, that was such a plot point. Looking back now, it was fine in the moment, but when you look back, it had nothing. Her death, oh, they kissed. That was the typical movie, action hero with the girl kiss. You know it wasn't gonna last or anything. But here with Gabrielle, good Lord, I felt so bad. And
yeah.
Much like First Blood, this stuff was stuff out of his control. More so this time around. And yeah, going from again, and 2, like I said, is only necessary for the plot. But if you focus on 1, 4, and 5, it tells a trilogy, doesn't it? It tells you have the beginning. Again, like I said, you only need 2 for the setup, but then 4 is like him finally coming to terms with his demons to a degree. But then 5 revealing that it is a phrase from Mafia III that I think perfectly fits. This was said to another Vietnam vet. Just because you're home doesn't mean you're back. Would you agree that phrase fits perfectly with Rambo?
Yeah.
As he says at the end, a lot of stuff was lost along the way, but Gabrielle was the one good he had. And I'll be honest, I knew it was coming. I still cried.
Yeah, it's just...
And more so now because you know the context. He finally and something pure and good that he raised. And just because of her naivete and yeah, just of all the other factors, and technically in his mind, a mistake he made, which was letting her father live when he should have snapped his neck. In his eyes, this wouldn't have happened if he had done it. Mm-hmm. Also, the DVD, unfortunately, is not the extended version with the opening, but it gives more context to this. Mm-hmm. Basically, when you really think about it, aside from getting Troutman in 3 and the POWs to a degree in 2, whenever if someone close to Rambo he goes after, they get killed. Mm-hmm. Or they eventually die out of things that he can't control. If he can't
run away on a person.
Yeah, it does. And now again, with Troutman, he was able to control the situation. Mm-hmm. Cho, he wasn't. His friends from Baker team, he couldn't. Just so much times he couldn't. Again, Troutman was the only one. And even then, he eventually lost him. Mm-hmm. Off screen, granted, through the same. Basically, according to Stallone, the character died the same day as the actor. So you can imagine how much. And I bet you Rambo didn't know until he got back.
Probably, yeah.
Just imagine how it was for him when he comes back and thinks, I'll go at least look him up. He died while I was still at Nam. That probably devastated him. Mm-hmm. The last good friend he had left. Mm-hmm. Gone because he chose to stay in Nam and hide himself out from the world. There's just so much in this. I would say it's one of the best written series. Again, 3 aside and the corniness of 2, but the politics of 2 was solid. Mm-hmm. Also, now, back to, now I show the tell with the violence. First of all, since now that we've seen 4, where would you rate 5's violence?
Good question.
I'd say it's between 2 and 4.
Yeah,
leaning towards 4. Leaning
sense.
towards 4. It's as gratuitous as 2, but it made sense.
Because these were assholes and they didn't deserve mercy.
Exactly, but it wasn't realistic, let's be honest.
No, it wasn't. 4 definitely had more like realistic Warzone type vibes.
Exactly, but this just felt more like, again, just splatter porn almost. You know what I mean? But again, for this whole franchise, man, are you glad I showed you it?
It's pretty awesome, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Rambo's definitely one of the more deep, in-depth characters, and you can follow him through. But I will also say this, that's probably one of the other downsides of 2, and especially 3, is that, here's how I look at it. 2 and 3 are him just letting the monster out. Mm-hmm. And I think 3 especially was a case where he let it out, and while at the end Troutman said we're getting soft, not really.
No.
I think he let it out just enough to keep it at bay, because remember, he was doing those stick fights. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why you can look at it as saying he's let out his aggression just enough that he's fine-tuned it, but it was always going to come back if he let it, which is what we saw in 4. Mm-hmm. 4 is when he wasn't even trying to do any of the stick fighting or anything anymore. He just went about his life. Mm-hmm. And he was just full of self-loathing and self-hating. And that's the funny thing is when you look at Rambo, you got to judge it based off of how things open up. Mm-hmm. And then realize what he's been through. In this case, with 5, he was through the happiest he's ever been. Mm-hmm. The absolute best he's ever been. And you know what I mean, right? It's just, I hope this is the end.
Yeah, it makes the sense for it to end there.
Now, do I wish John is dead? No.
No.
That would be a horrible way for him to go. Mm-hmm. You know, to be dead, I mean.
Yeah.
But, and yes, it's a sad, bittersweet ending compared to 4. But 4, people like to say 4 was a happy ending and this was one of those happy ending overrides. Not really. It's optimistic.
But it's not explicitly happy.
Because we don't know if his father was still alive, how his father was going to react. Nothing. We just see him with hope. I mean, I would say that 4 probably end just the way it opened was 1. Mm-hmm. Him just walking down with his duffel bag, and walking into the unknown. Mm-hmm. I will admit that 4 probably end the perfect bookend to 1, but this felt like the whole movie was a bookend to 1. And when you look at it, it's him back home. And like I said, I could accept it one time for Stallone to do it because it feels like a perfect bookend. But again, if he does it again, he's just using it for politics. Would you agree with that? If he does another movie, if he does another movie and he does what he wants for political, this political stuff with the Indian reservation, you know that he's not doing it because he has a story to tell. Right?
Yeah, I mean, like, Rambo is, like, I'd say that book is closed and sealed.
Exactly. He has nothing left now. And yes, you could say it ends miserably for him. I think he's just, personally, here's what I think John's going to do. Like he said, he's just going to wander. I think that's all he's going to do is wander, but he's not going to have, probably not going to have any other people who has a grudge against Vietnam vets gunning for him. Mm-hmm. And if you ask me, I think in the end, sad that might be a better ending for him. Mm-hmm. What do you say? Or what do you think John's is going after this, after he recovers?
Good question.
Similar thing to what I'm saying, or do you think that's a little too cynical?
Maybe he'll just be content to be another face in the crowd.
Yeah, probably, because he has nothing. He might go see Maria, that's the housekeeper and all that again, but what else? He doesn't have Gabrielle anymore. Probably not going to go looking for another surrogate daughter, because that was just by happenstance. Mm-hmm. What else does he have left? Especially after 10 years of raising her.
Yeah, it's just like, you don't just replace that.
You don't. So, yeah, that's the whole entire Rambo franchise. I mean, I realize also we don't talk much about the action. That's because the action, I'll be honest, with Rambo, the action's just there. Much like with Rocky, it's more about the character. Mm-hmm. Again, that's probably one of the reasons why 3 is such a dud. There's not that much characterization.
Yeah.
In fact, to be honest, as much as I liked his wisecracks, it was a bit off-putting to have him cracking wise, wasn't it? In 3?
Yeah.
And to the point where even Troutman's like, oh, but time to crack jokes. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. That's all we had to end our movie marathon. Thank you guys, and we'll see you later.